And the subject that has set the internet on fire this week is what's going to happen with this latest round of negotiations between Trump and Putin and with his ultimatum. And helping us figure that out is going to be Anna from Ukraine.
My name is Anna and I'm from Ukraine, in Ukraine, waiting to see the Kremlin collapse.
I'm right there with you. Well, speaking of Kremlin collapse, there is this ultimatum that Trump put forth in front of the Russian Federation about 50. Well, what was it supposed to be? It was supposed to be 50 days, and then it got shrunk down to 10 to 12 days from now, which equals tomorrow. And there is Friday, and there is supposed to be this whole conversation between Putin and Trump. There was one already, and I found it very funny that Witkoff refused to call it a breakthrough. However, Trump called it productive. And in my experience and opinion, all of the conversations with Putin are neither a breakthrough nor productive. They're just a bunch of lies that Trump keeps giving into. So what do you have anything to say on this up? I'm sure you do. So what do you have to say on this subject?
Oh, thank you so much. And we share opinion on this subject. And the only thing that I consider a breakthrough is that I have developed this habit of reading Trump's messages and not paying attention to this highly emotionally loaded words like a breakthrough, achievement, huge, unbelievable, winning, and so on, because it literally means nothing. And it doesn't tell us anything. Only the actions speak. And to tell you the truth, we haven't met for quite a long period of time. And for me, during this period, the greatest achievement and the greatest breakthrough is that Trump stopped openly and repeatedly blame Ukraine for this war, just as he did. So that is the greatest victory possible. All the rest is nothing. Putin is able to manipulate, as an experienced KGB agent, to manipulate Trump. And I think everyone predicted that after Witkoff's visit, there will be a new delay, a new chance, a new promise, and everything goes according to this scenario. So actually, when you are realistic about the situation, it's way easier to read these words about huge victories, breakthroughs, and so on. I also believe that Zelensky, our EU allies, have developed a similar skill, and they do know how to communicate with Trump, how not to react or how to react. So hopefully, they will protect the world from Putin aligning with Trump 100%, and that will remain in this dragging phase, which is also very dangerous and very bad. So I personally believe this meeting cannot give us anything new apart from more time for the Kremlin to kill innocent Ukrainians.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I think that every single meeting they've had so far has just been, there is this really, really gross saying in Ukrainian, which is urinating in your eyes. But I feel like it's so fitting here, because I think what Putin keeps doing is just urinating in America's eyes and saying that this is, that they are looking for peace, they're trying to establish peace. And I also, to be honest, I don't understand at this point anymore, why these conversations are even happening, because they seem to be repeated, and it seems to be like the same thing over and over and over again, like a broken record. Nothing new comes out of it. I think that there is no reason to have these conversations to begin with, because you can get the gist and the mood of Russia just based on listening to their speeches, right? Where they say that their priorities haven't changed, their goals haven't changed. They want demilitarization. They want the what was that? My favorite part was they want the change of the Kyiv regime, which I think we as Ukrainians have proved about 2 weeks ago that there is no regime, and that during the war and during any really circumstance, the people are still going to stand up for their rights, and they're going to drive the course of our government decisions, not vice versa. So I'm so tired of saying I don't know why they keep having talks, because I really truly don't. There is truly no reason to.
Yeah, especially if we think about 3.5 years of open war crimes that Russia commits in Ukraine, this like invasion, not just even a war, but an open aggression, open invasion of an independent country. So one of the worst things that Trump did, he actually broke the international isolation of Putin. Before that, there were just some minor people from Hungary or Serbia meeting with the dictator, but it was not okay to speak with him, to shake hands with him. And yesterday I saw on X a post that I fully support, saying that if you kill one person, police officer comes and arrests you. But if you kill thousands of people, Witkoff will come to congratulate you. And that's unfortunately this Chamberlain approach that we witness. And I believe that the only explanation for that is Techo. Like Trump does not have any strategy. He does not know what to do. He's not prepared to go all in with the Kremlin. And sanctions are important, but we don't know what can they bring. How will India react? How will China react? Because one things they are saying, the other things they may do, we cannot predict that. And the main thing that can bring lasting peace is weapons for Ukraine and letting Ukraine defeat Russia. And that is something no one has ever accepted in the White House, neither Biden nor Trump. They were not prepared, like to lose Russia. That's insane. That's perhaps the result of the Cold War effect of this fake image of Russia as a superpower. But all of them make calculations and predictions based on this, like basic truth for them that Russia must be preserved, and they have to keep its face, when the face of Russia is literally the face of Putin, that like Botox Kremlin goblin. And another thing that not many people are talking about, I believe it's not just Trump who does not have a strategy, but it's also Putin who does not have a strategy how to get out of this war. Because let's stop respecting him as a master strategist. He definitely failed. He brought war to dozens of Russian regions when he claimed that the task of the special military operation is to protect them. The economy is collapsing, and he's looking for help from North Korea, from Belarus. Literally, he's fighting with the help of 5 countries, some of which are nuclear. So he is a loser, and he definitely does not have a strategy. Even if he wanted to withdraw, for example, or to stop this war for a certain period, I think that his life equals the continuation of this war. His political position is equated. And come on, there is close to 1 million Russian soldiers now earning money, looting, bloodthirsty, totally uncontrollable. Where will he bring them? Back to Russia? I'm sure he's afraid of that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he definitely. I think that he can't stop this war, because stopping this war would mean he would be taken out of the Kremlin, probably either through the window or dragged out with forks or something. Because at this point, it's all in or nothing, right?
Mhm.
Interestingly, I've been seeing these very. I'm sure you saw this, but recently his love child / illegitimate daughter, who lives in Paris and enjoys a lifestyle of millions of dollars, even though her mother apparently is a professional cleaner, which is not a profession that would earn you a lifestyle like that. She came out and talked about how she's not responsible for his crimes and his murders, and how people should leave her alone, and that she works at this job basically speaking out against him and like representing Russian artists that are against the war in Ukraine. And I thought that her words are kind of like a very interesting metaphor for Russia in general and for what they have been doing, because when it comes to receiving $100 million worth of shares from Sberbank, she's his daughter. When it comes to being responsible for his crimes, she wants nothing to do with him, right? And I think this is like kind of the essence of the Russian soul in Russia and how they operate in general when it comes to actually ending the war, and when it comes to taking responsibility, and when it comes to admitting defeat. They want nothing to do with it, right? When it comes to blackmailing the world and talking about all of their fake accomplishments, they're all in. and it's a very interesting sort of pattern. And I'm sure that most people abroad don't see this, and I'm going to receive a lot of criticism for saying that she's, she's bad or something because she's this love child that didn't choose her parents and whatnot. But I think that her entire being and her entire behavior is very synonymous to Russia and how Russia acts in general, because enjoying a lifestyle of hundreds of millions of dollars flying helicopters and private jets is totally all in. Saying that you have something to do with your dad's crimes and the money that he received for these crimes is no one's responsible.
You are right. And in general, this Russian hypocrisy is very obvious, but at the same time, it does not destroy the population, because I wonder why millions of Russians don't have questions to all those elites that keep their children abroad, that do not keep their children in Moscow. They keep speaking about the rotting West, and at the same time, they send their children to live their best lives in France, in Switzerland, in England. And somehow nobody asks these questions and nobody reacts. I often speak about that on the channel, and I do have people leaving comments like, but Ukrainian politicians do that too. But okay, nobody says that West is rotting here in Ukraine. Nobody curses West. Nobody threatens West. We say, yes, guys, you did a good, I don't know, medical system, education system, or you've got great architecture or more opportunities for fashion designers. We openly praise you. And then in this context, it's okay if someone sends his or her children outside the country. But in Russia, it's the countries. They want to, I don't know, turn Europe into this nuclear ashes. And at the same time, they send their children to buy property there. And this kind of hypocrisy is pretty universal, because you can see that lots of like Indian people who are victims of the Russian, or I could say Soviet propaganda, at the same time, many of them speak about the need to preserve human lives. They are not that like open warmongers, not that open haters of Ukraine, but they are not prepared to stop buying Russian oil, even understanding that it helps Russian kill Ukrainian children. And I believe that, just as Vlad Wexler says, universe is indifferent, unfortunately. If we had this kind of moral clarity, at least a little bit, then it would be way easier to explain that, well, you cannot negotiate with Putin. He is a war criminal. He's responsible for so many deaths. He cannot be a party in this negotiations process. He can only be in The Hague, or else you may choose a different place, Nuremberg, or a new place elsewhere. And maybe then we should stop expecting this justice and understanding. And I like this phrase, it seems to me, of another Ukrainian intellectual, Valery Pekar, who says, stop looking for good Russians, start looking for useful Russians. And these useful Russians may be evil, but at the same time, like, I don't know, Hirkin or Prigozhin, they are not friends of Ukraine. They are evil, but they can shake something inside Russia. And any trouble inside Russia is good for the defeat of the system. And I don't mean that's a victory, but if they have problems, it's better. I don't know, if they have earthquakes and volcanoes erupting, that's better than not. And for example, this Putin's daughter could be a kind of a useful Russian. And I hope that some, this information warfare systems will use that and try to use that against the Kremlin, because we cannot waste such potential. We shouldn't be like 100% good when it's the war for our existence.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do agree with that. I just, I think that useful Russians are good in a sense, but also at the same time, I think that people put them on the pedestal, right? And I like to bring them into people's sort of viewpoint, just to illustrate how these Russians really, with their actions, really show you what Russia is really like. And I do 100% agree with this.
There are no good Russians as a political category, as like a movement or something. We should not expect they will appear. No.
Yeah, no, I mean they've had all this time to appear and none of them appeared, right?
Thankfully.
The reason why The reason why I brought her as an example, right, is because I thought it was so funny and so ironic, because she did say in her I think it was the Times article that did like a piece on her, right? And she said in this article that she's not responsible for her family, who doesn't even hear her, and that she does everything that she can do to support Ukraine, right? But that's not true. You're not doing everything you can do. You have $100 million worth of Sberbank shares that your mom received as hush money, and you say that you want to have nothing to do with this family. If you want to have nothing to do with this family, right, then you can donate that to the Ukrainian army, and you can live off of your honestly and earnestly earned money that you earn in Paris on your own. But then
Mhm.
people will jump in with arguments where like, oh, but she has that money and she didn't do anything wrong to receive that money, right? But again, it's not like she's suffering. She has a decent job. She can support herself. She doesn't need private jets and all of these crazy spoils and luxuries, right? Because again, she said she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. She also didn't do anything to have that money, right? So it's kind
Natural.
of like, again, yeah, it's sort of, when it comes to wanting a billionaire lifestyle and doing nothing for it, they're all Putin's children, right? But when it comes to responding for everything that he does in the world, they all want nothing to they want to have nothing to do with him. And
Yeah.
it's like you can't have it both ways, right?
Yeah, you're totally right. There is a very easy way, to break up with these family ties and even to demonstrate your position. I think that her donating at least half of her fortune to the Ukrainian army would be a very strong move that could potentially influence even such showbiz president as Donald Trump. And at least stir some public discourse, media discourse. Some vloggers would catch that, but no. So I think it's the way just to protect her luxurious lifestyle from people
From being
not letting
scrutinized.
her lead it.
From being scrutinized. You know what's actually also interesting, because and I the reason why I want to say this, which I'm not a finance person at all, but I recently did some research, and I found out that basically, say if she invested 15% of her wealth, 15, not even, not even $50,000. Let's say she invested $15 million and donated 50 to $75 million to the Ukrainian army. In 20 years, she would make that money back.
Yeah, but she
You
doesn't
know?
need that money if she's like. Uh, I think that the task is to make such people visible, not to protect them, not to, one thing is that I don't like about this global public opinion is that they are constantly looking for excuses. They are constantly looking for good Russians. They are constantly looking for the explanation why, let's say, that they do not protest inside the country. Just yesterday, I've received a message saying like, "Oh, you're so brave in Ukraine, but if you came to Russia, you wouldn't be able to protest." Come on, they were shooting at people during Maidan Revolution. That was very dangerous. More than 100 people killed. That was not an easy task, but we stood firm. And somehow this set of excuses for Russia is so large as its territory.
Well, people love to find excuses for Russia because people don't want to believe that something is outwardly inherently evil. And I too always have people telling me that, like, it's so funny because, when people want to speak against Ukraine, then Ukraine is a dictatorship. But when people want to speak for Russia, and they want to protect Russia and the people who are not protesting, then Ukraine is a democracy and it's easy, right? It's a very funny, slippery slope double standard here. But yeah, during Maidan, it wasn't. Maidan was worse than any of the protests Russia had so far. First of all, Russia's biggest protest against the war in Ukraine was 15,000 people altogether during the month that they tried to protest, right? 15,000 people, and that's a maximum number. That's like an estimated maximum number. Out of 140 million is despicable, because it's not even 1% of the population. It's not half of 1% of the population. It's not a quarter of 1% of the population. It
I
is a
would
ridiculous number.
in around Russia. I mean, like in Ukraine, they always protest, not only in the capital, not only in
Yeah,
Lviv or Kharkiv, but literally everywhere.
everywhere. And it's, here's the thing. In Russia, people who say, oh, we're so against the war, but we can't do anything. Again, 15,000 people came out in the course of a month. So all together, right? So it's not really 15,000 people. It's the global yield of these protests. In Ukraine, when a law was passed that we weren't okay with, about what 15,000 people came out in a course of a week. In and our population is 1/3 of Russia's, and this is not about
Plus, it's literally
war.
dangerous with missiles and
Yeah,
drones in our streets. Yeah.
yeah, and people were staying there overnight. I've seen people protest past curfew. I've seen the police support the people. I've seen ambulances there. I mean, I have been to the protests myself, and I just think that these excuses for Russians, they're just that. They're excuses.
How many, this police, FSB officers do they have? The special forces, not that many. They have 140 million people. Literally, if many of them gathered, if these were hundreds of thousands of people, they wouldn't be able to stop them. Not enough people to stop them. And I always remind people this illustration how in Ukraine during the revolutions, Berkut, for example, also put people in автозакс. And in Russia, what they do when a similar situation happens, they film it and then they disappear. And in Ukraine, people were, shaking these autozags. They were attacking Berkut that was trying to put people in these trucks, and they succeeded because, like, you have 20, 30, let's say, policemen, but you have like 20, 30,000 people around them. They cannot do a lot. If people are united, if people are determined, even if they start shooting, they cannot kill 1,000.
Yeah, I think that, the biggest illustrative difference between Ukrainians and Russians is that image of a tank driving onto a person and him standing with a Molotov cocktail in front of the tank and he's alone. There were also images of like grandmas and just like elderly people doing this, right? Because they're not afraid. They're standing up for their freedom, they're standing up for their beliefs. In Russia, I think a very telltale image is 30 people running away from one police officer with a baton. Which
Yeah.
I just find ludicrous because you could have turned around 180 and that officer would be running
Like
away from you.
running away.
Yeah. There's 30 of you and one of him. What are you doing? Like, genuinely. Yeah. Russians are not willing to get hurt for their freedom. And I wanted to say Russians are not willing to get hurt for what they believe in. But the thing is, they don't even believe in that.
I don't think they will.
But that's exactly, Russians want an easy victory. They complain about being put in these like police cars and being arrested for protesting a dictatorship. Like, what did you think was going to happen for protesting a dictatorship? If you say this is a dictatorship, then you need to understand that once you start protesting, there is going to be bloodshed and violence, and you need to be prepared for it, and you need to be willing to get hurt to fight for what's right. Ukrainians are willing to do that. Russians aren't. They want easy victory. They want easy money. They always want an easy way out. And it's illustrated so well with this war because they thought it was going to be a 3-day war.
I think you are way more optimistic than I am, because I think they don't even want this kind of victory. They don't want the freedom we keep offering them. By we, I mean not Ukraine, but the world. The world constantly thinks that if Russians are given a chance, they will nurture the democracy or something.
No, I don't think so. I don't agree. I disagree with that profoundly. I don't think they will be able to do that because they have been given chances. That I think their only chance was Yeltsin, to be fair, but nothing came out of it.
Corrupt, and he also brought Putin for the only reason to save him from cases open. The thing is that Russians don't want freedom because it comes together with responsibility. And they don't want responsibility. They are ready to sacrifice personal freedom, personal choice for the sake of this strong hand that will decide everything for you. And perhaps the only message that we can keep, pushing into their population is the fact that this strong hand did not bring you that stability and security that promised, because you do have explosions, you do have collapse of your airports, you do have a danger of conscription, you do have other things ahead.
Everything that could be happening is already happening, and nothing is changing the situation, and nothing will. Waiting for Russians to, to gain a consciousness is like waiting for a miracle or for pigs to fly. In fact, I do think the pigs are going to fly faster and sooner than Russians will gain a collective consciousness. But I think that a good conclusive statement to this is for President Donald Trump. I think he needs to understand, and he needs to know the things that we just talked about before he goes and talks to Putin, because none of these. Russia is a boy who cried wolf and continues crying wolf and will continue crying wolf, because none of these conversations are leading to anything. And I think we've just provided so many illustrative examples as to what their mentality is like and what peace looks like for them. Peace to them looks like surrender. Peace to them and a good outcome to them in every situation is when whoever they are terrorizing this time succumbs.
Mm-hmm. I don't have any hopes for Donald Trump to understand this situation, but I do believe that our viewers, our followers, are the people who demonstrate that dissatisfaction, that they don't trust Russia, that they want Russia to be punished for these war crimes, which is very natural for the American society. And I hope that they will keep demonstrating that, reflecting that in Donald Trump's ratings, and then he will react, not because he doesn't like Putin, not because he cares for the lives of the Ukrainian children, but because he wants people to approve him. So my only hope is that we keep telling the truth and people keep reacting inside of their countries, and that actually means a lot. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you for being here. I really always appreciate talking to you, and I hope that we can catch up soon, and maybe after Friday a miracle is going to happen and something is going to change.
Yeah. With pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, and let's watch what happens next. But Russia must be defeated. That's pretty obvious.
For sure. I mean, that's the general message always. Well, thank you so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, and I really do hope that you take out something interesting and something informative from it. And if you do, please don't forget to subscribe to this channel, turn on all of your notifications, as well as like this video and send it to a friend. YouTube algorithm lately is really testing our patience. And if you have any thoughts, questions, suggestions, anything in your mind, please leave them in the comments down below, and I will see you next time.